and we'll go ahead and move into our agenda. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is RS 2013-619, sponsors Matthews. This authorizes the issuance, sale, and payment of general obligation bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $405 million. It's been properly moved and seconded. Council Lady Allen.
I just need an educational bonds, Rich, if you don't mind. Can you explain the benefits of doing it this way and also specifically address the waiting 9 years to start paying on the principal?
Sure, my pleasure. We are structuring this, as you know, Council Lady and other members of the committee, typically when the council approves projects in the capital spending plans, then over a period of time, money gets drawn down on those projects. And we use our commercial paper program to pay for that debt on a short-term basis until we do bonds. We have a $400 million line on that of commercial paper, which usually takes us 3 or 4 years to spend down, and then we go and issue bonds. And that's what's here tonight is paying off about $350 million. It would be pay off about $300 million of commercial paper, and then about $100 million of it would go to would be new money to pay for projects. It's a very advantageous time to issue debt. Rates are still near historic low levels. I think the all-in interest rate on this debt will be something, in the low threes or maybe even a little lower than that. And so for that reason, we think it's the time to do it. We are deferring. We have proposed that we would defer principal for several years. Let me say that we still are paying the debt off in 20 years, so it's still an ambitious, it's not like we're stretching this debt out to 30 years or anything like that. It is 20 years, and the reason for that is that between now and really 2020, we have a higher level of principal of debt outstanding, and then it starts dropping off. Our debt service payments sort of reach a cliff between now and 2020 and then start dropping a little bit, and then after a while drop precipitously. And so by structuring it this way, we're essentially able to lower annual debt service payments by some $10 million or $12 million over the next several years, which as we do our budget, I think that's going to be pretty important. And so there is a small price to pay for that, but we think one that's very reasonable in light of looking at our overall debt management going forward.
Is that it, Councilor? Thank you. Councilman Tiger.
Rich, a citizen of Nashville who wants to invest in our city, how will this be advertised, and how could the average citizen invest in these bonds?
Well, there's a complete team of underwriters who will be selling the bonds, and there will be a retail order period, which gives banks and net worth individuals the ability to put an order in for bonds early on, and especially on the GO side, we will make sure that is a real retail order period, so that local investors through one of the brokerage firms, there's 6 or 8 firms, I can't remember exactly how many that are on there, including several local firms. So I think I can't remember the list of who all is on this transaction, but there's more than a few local firms, so that if they have a relationship with one of those firms, they can put an order in for those bonds during that retail order period. That's the best way to get. That's really the only way for a small investor today to get a bond is through that retail order period, and we think it's good for the city. We think it keeps rates. It's a check on rates, as well as we'd like to give our citizens a chance to invest.
And these bonds would be tax-free federally and tax-free from Hall income tax.
Yes, double tax and double free. So there's no taxes on this, unless there is an exemption if you're in some tax bracket. You don't get the full value of the Hall income tax. But other than that, yes, they are totally tax-free.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Garrett.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. Rich, there's 3 or 4 of these bills together that are all bond related.
Yes, sir. Different debt, different security, but there's 3 bond resolutions before you tonight, sir.
And they will generate new income for new water lines, and/or sewer lines or just water lines?
Well, this bill is just general obligation bonds. The other two deal with the water and sewer system. But the bill that's right before that's under consideration right now is just general obligation bonds. And so that's school projects, parks, roads, paving.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
Okay.
But it would only be spent on stuff that the council has already authorized.
Right.
There's no new projects being included in this proposal.
Okay,
tonight.
well, forgive me, Mr. Chairman, but since I think they're all kind of related, I was just going to ask you, but the ones that are coming up, I guess the next couple,
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with the bond issues, and I understand where you're, getting the money to do that kind of thing, but the ones that are coming up, aren't they going to generate new monies to be spent on water lines?
I don't have all of the approved capital. I don't have the capital improvement programs for the water department in hand. There may be some new lines, but the vast bulk of the water and sewer expenditures over the next decade are just going to be complete repairs to the old infrastructure, and a good portion of this debt will go towards the EPA consent decree, which is designed. That we're going to spend $1 billion over the next decade on that, and a lot of which is to separate the sewers and things of that nature. So that's really where the bulk of it's going to go. If there's any new projects in here for water lines, it'd be relatively insignificant in the scheme of their overall revenues.
And then I guess I have to ask, is the department head here?
There's representatives of the water department here. I
John,
see Mr. Kennedy in the back.
Deputy Director
I mean,
Kennedy.
I didn't ask Mr. Potter to be here. He is on matters of financing. He simply has always deferred to us to handle those bond issue matters.
Well, in this case, they are financial, but at the same time, there are some areas in here where there'll be some new monies generated that could be spent on water lines and,
Right, but
and I guess
yeah.
more than anything else, and let me take you back just a little bit, okay?
I understand where you're going
You
with this.
understand exactly where
I know
I'm
where you're
going
going.
because district council members, one of the best things they are able to do is to get fire hydrants, which actually reduces individuals' home insurance. And, this particular council and the one before the other one, it seems to have lost its way with stormwater and having the consent order. And I understand that. But on a normal situation, we would have, if you're going to do something like this for a department, the department head would be here. Mr. Chairman, you'll have to forgive me, but,
No, that's all right,
I'm not
Council.
putting you on the spot, but if this is, and I know you sent a letter out to have either that particular, or the department head to be here, or a representative of that. But, we don't have the department heads come up here, for much of anything. They just assume that this council's going to pass it no matter what. And let me ask you this, Mr. Reed. 20 years ago, what would we do?
I can't speak for 20.
Oh, yes, you were. You were sitting right there.
I wasn't right here, but I might have been somewhere in this
You
room.
were sitting maybe in that seat right there.
John Kennedy's here. Typically, Toby's chair, that's right, as Councilman Tiger correctly pointed out.
And I know we're making light of this.
I think that you're right. I think department heads do not come to the council meetings to the extent that they did years ago. I don't know how that's changed over time, but clearly that has.
It's changed because of the administrations, and I'm laying it right square on them. You can do this or the previous is what it amounts to, and it just bothers me. It really does bother me when I see this much here. That I'd be proud of the fact. I'd be the director up here. I'd be making sure that every council member knew that this was helpful for what it was going to do, where it was going to go. But we don't have. We have the mayor's staff here, but you don't have the department head here. They send an individual, and John, no disrespect to John back there or anything, but the department head never shows up. This is $500 million we're probably dealing with. Okay, I've had my say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll leave it up to you as to what you want to do.
Thank you, Councilman Glover.
I'd like to go back on the interest rate, please, of this, because the deferral bothers me. I think you pointed out something very important, Mr. Riebling, and that is by 2020, the debt service not only levels off, it starts to drop. Are we guaranteed a 3% maximum interest rate on this?
Not guaranteed. Obviously, until you go to the market. I'm trying to find the actual, what we think the rates are going to be. Give me just a second. Thought I had it in the sheet. I have everything but that. Right now, we're looking at the all-inclusive rate we're looking at is probably 3.16%.
Okay, which would give us about the $94 million on the deferral for interest only, correct?
Thereabouts,
What's
yeah.
the maximum interest rate this could go to? Let's say if things change over the next couple of
Right.
years and interest rates start rising, as I suspect they will.
Which is the reason why I wanted to go ahead and do the issue earlier now. The resolution has a limit as to how high the rates could be, and I think it's 6%.
Okay, so if that's the case, let's assume it's 5%. Then at that point, I did just some rough calculations. If we waited until 2020 and started paying this principal back, then we're then strapping the city with $38 million with interest and principal payments at that point. Does that do anything to really alleviate the added debt service that we've taken on over the last couple of years? And will that in fact free up dollars for the next administration or the next council to do future work for the city?
Well, I mean, I think that your whole capital program is just kind of a work in progress. There's no kind of end to it. It seems like every time we we're a growing city, we got growing needs, and so we're going to continue to fund projects. We assume that if council approves this transaction, that we would probably be back to the council, someone would be back to the council probably in 2017 to do another series of around $400 million, which would pretty much complete those projects that have been authorized to date by this council and prior councils.
Okay, I'm just concerned that we don't really have a comprehensive picture of what the ongoing debt is going to possibly be, because I think we have some fluctuations in what the interest rates can be on past debt that we've taken on.
Well, you always stay, by doing this fixed rate, we're going to lock the rate in on this $400 million worth of bonds.
For 7 years.
No, it's locked in for 20 years.
For 20 years.
For 20 years, yes.
Okay.
This is locked in this is fixed rate, long-term debt, 20-year bonds.
3.16 with a maximum of 6.
Yes, sir. And it won't be much more than 3.16. I mean, the market is still pretty good. It changes from day to day. Obviously, we hope to do better than that. And that's one of the reasons why we propose a structure like we did. It gives us flexibility on timing so that we can go to the market at the absolute best day to sell these bonds to get the lowest rate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Are there any other questions? Mr. Riebling, I would like to ask a question. I did receive a couple of inquiries. The council has not, and John, you may be able to correct this too, the council has not passed the East-West Connector in our capital spending plan previously, have we?
That's correct. The council's not been asked for any funds for that. And as again, none of this money would go to any projects that the council hadn't previously authorized.
Okay.
But an East-West Connector has not been authorized for any money.
All right, thank you. I wanted to clarify that. Councilman Claiborne?
Thank you. Mr. Riebling, could I make a request for us as council members? Back some time ago, you did a chart in one of your presentations showing this debt cycle where it goes and then it drops and then it drops again, right? Could you update that to reflect what we're talking about here and show how that figures into to that?
I'll get that to you, hopefully if not today, tomorrow. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Councilman. No other discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-620 and 2013-621, I would like to could we possibly take those together? All right, we'll take those together, and I'll entertain a motion. Second. And properly move. Okay. 620 approves an initial resolution providing the issuance of up to $500 million in water and sewer revenue bonds, and 621 supplement substitute resolution number RS 2012-1442 to authorize the issuance of water and sewer revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $300 million. And it's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tigert.
All right, Councilman Garrett went down that path. If we could ask Mr. Kennedy, what differences will the citizens of Nashville see after the issuance of these bonds?
Thank you, Councilman. As Mr. Riebling pointed out, most of this money is going to be committed to the Clean Nashville, or Nashville Clean Water Program. As you're aware, we had a consent decree we entered into with the EPA, and that calls for upgrade to our sewer system so that we don't have any dry weather overflows. Plus, as we've experienced over the last several years, a lot of our water lines, a lot of our infrastructure is older, and we have breaks like the one we had in Hermitage Avenue last week. So a big portion of this spending will be to upgrade and replace those water lines and the old infrastructure in our system.
All right, the stormwater projects, the A and C project list, what? Not part of this, okay.
Right.
And then you said the vast majority, so that leads me to believe there is something left over for, as Councilman Garrett talked about, fire hydrants or other infrastructure improvements that might be necessary. Is that the case?
I'm assuming there's some portion of that that's left over. I don't have the actual details on how every dollar would be spent.
Can we have that for tomorrow? I mean, would you be able to tell us that there'll be 100 new fire hydrants installed and there'll be X number of this and that that would improve service in communities?
I'll see what level of detail we've got available and get you what I can.
I mean, we've heard from Councilman Stanley over and over again some problem areas in his district, and I'm sure other district council members sitting here have similar type situations. I know out in some of the rural parts of Bellevue, down Poplar Creek Road, for example, I know that that's Harpeth Valley, but there's got to be some rural parts of town that, as Tim mentioned, would love fire hydrants in the area just for the insurance rate. So I think we do need some detail for that tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Councilman Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, the only reason I bring all that up is I remember state law, it used to be that fire hydrants were like 1,000 feet apart. And for those of district council members that are in old communities, the law is 500 feet now. And is that correct? I think, John, is that correct now?
I believe that's correct, yes.
But if you go look around in your community right now, in your subdivisions that are 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years old, you're going to find a fire hydrant every 1,000 feet. And it used to be that administrations used to put in 200, 250, or 300 new fire hydrants all the time. And that's what Mr. Riebling and I were kidding each other about. That was other administrations that were that. One other question. When did we sign the consent decree? When did we sign the consent?
We've signed it about a year ago. We're waiting for the Justice Department and the federal courts to finalize it.
Wasn't it, that's the only time we signed it, or was that the final time we signed it?
Final time.
But wasn't it signed earlier too? I mean, didn't we?
A periodic give and take.
The first time we signed it was.
I don't know the answer to that. I can find out, but I don't know the answer to that.
I think it was several years ago is what I'm talking about. I mean, we're this council and our future generations are paying for something that we basically, I think, signed that we would do several years ago, and prior to this administration even.
It started long before this administration took office, but it's been going back and forth between the Justice Department, and we're now waiting for the federal judge to.
I just wanted to make it clear that it was prior to this administration that the consent decree was signed.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Johnson?
Thank you. I wanted to kind of piggyback on Councilman Garrett's concern in regards to the older neighborhoods needing the fire hydrants. I did receive some emails from people along the 481 Rural Hill stretch. You all are replacing all of the older water mains along Smith Springs Road. That area is along that corridor. Mm-hmm. And he had some concerns that there were not fire hydrants in the area because the house had burned, one house over. and they couldn't locate a fire hydrant when they came out to try to put that home out. So if you could add that to your inquiry list in terms of if you're going to be exploring where fire hydrants need to be located in older neighborhoods, because that one would qualify.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilman Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, being a part of that committee on that combined sewer services, I just want to know that the total cost, John, what was the total cost of getting all that corrected? Because it seemed to me when I was on that committee and we did all those sites, this thing's going to be something like 10 to 15 years in the making before you get all this solved. Is that correct?
Right, it's a long-term project.
So this is nothing like going to be like one-term mayor to get this thing done, is it?
No, it's going to be over a number of years.
So that we could be talking about another 3 or 4 future mayors then, right?
I believe, I'm not an expert on the consent decree. I apologize.
Consent decree is currently formatted. You've got about 11 years to finish the projects once it's been finalized, and the current estimate is somewhere between $1 and $1.5 billion.
That's what I heard when we was on the committee. So this is nothing, I don't want anybody to think that this is going to be something like going to occur in 4 or 5 years, because this is a massive project. And when it come back down to fire hydrants, we were talking about fire hydrants being in the older part of the city. That's one issue, but there's another issue where fire hydrants are in rural areas of this city, and some of them are still 1,000 feet apart and greater. So it's not uncommon to find a fire hydrant out in the GSD, that's going to be 1,000 feet apart or better. So this is nothing new. It's been going on, and I'm just thinking, if this money that we're signing, I just don't believe we're going to take care of all of it, no way, because it's going to be like piecemealing. But I just wanted to say that if we're going to get into the fire hydrant, then we got to look at the GSD too.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no other request to speak, we'll call for the question. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Resolutions passed. Thank you. RS 2013-622, sponsors Weiner, Matthews, and Lancaster, approves a state grant of $767,100 to the Metro Board of Health to provide care coordination service for the Children's Special Services Program. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-623, sponsors Weiner Matthews, appropriates $51,438 in state grant funds to the Metro Action Commission to provide after-school meals and snacks for at-risk students. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-624, sponsors Weiner Matthews, approves an amendment to a state grant for bioterrorism preparedness services by increasing the grant amount by $106,400. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-625, sponsors Bennett Matthews, approves an agreement with the Cookeville Police Department for the distribution of $15,000 to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-626, sponsors Bennett Matthews, approves an agreement with the Dixon County Sheriff's Office for the distribution of $30,000 to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Been properly moved and seconded. In discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. Could have taken all these together too, huh? RS 2013-627, sponsors Bennett, Matthews, and Lancaster, approves an agreement with the Tennessee Association of Chief of Police for the distribution of $15,000 to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2013-628, sponsors Gilmore. We do have a letter. Approves an amendment to an agreement between Metro Government and Stallman Redevelopment Partners, LLC, for the use of up to 175 parking spaces in the courthouse garage by extending the term of the agreement for 7 years. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. And RS 2013-629, sponsors Moore, Gilmore, and others, approves an amendment to a lease agreement between the state and Metro Government for use of a portion of the Tennessee Preparatory School campus to increase the amount of lease space for the purposes of subletting the additional space to STEM Preparatory Academy Charter School. It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tigert.
Yes, Mr. Chair. How much of that 136,653 feet is building versus grounds?
Not sure is,
That's all building?
It's the School for the Arts. It's Nashville School for the Arts is what it is.
Is that square footage comparable to other high schools?
Probably on a small side.
What is the capacity of NSA?
I don't know the exact, I don't know the numbers. I'll do it for schools here.
Do we have anybody from schools here?
someone from STEM Prep was here.
But I don't know if they know the capacity of the school. Yeah.
Well, once again, we come to the issue of a bill that I have questions on, and other council members.
This really isn't a school issue. I mean, we can make it a school issue.
We're going to have to
Councilman,
bring back a separate bill to sublease to the school. This is just the land swap for the property.
Why isn't it a school issue if we have questions concerning the school that's operating there?
Because all this does is add some additional property to the existing school. That's what this lease amendment does with the state. It doesn't deal with the existing, doesn't do anything to change the current relationship with the school.
I understand, but it concerns a lease that exists with the school, so I'm disappointed again that no one is here.
Thank you, Councilman. Let's see, Council Lady Johnson.
I do want to relay a message from School Board Member Will Pinkston in support of this, and he asked for everyone's support.
Thank you, Council Lady Johnson. Council Lady Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to relay that it will be, they will be there tomorrow at the Education Committee if you want to forward those questions. I know that Councilman Tiger may have some concern, but they will be there tomorrow as well to answer those questions, the school, and also Will Pinkston.
All right. Thank you, Council Lady Moore. Seeing no other discussion, call for the question. All in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. And we are adjourned. Thank you.